Live from Beit Shemesh and broadcasted around the world, you are listening to the From Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Nahum Kligman. Interviews and advice from Jewish entrepreneurs from around the world. Listen, learn, be Matzliach.
Welcome to the From Entrepreneur. I have with me today a live interview with Daniel Gefen, the founder of JetVirtual. Daniel just made Aliyah about 3-4 months ago from England, correct?
Yep, correct.
And is now living in the beautiful city of Ramat Beit Shemesh. And he has a fantastic story. I just got to know him a little bit, and I love what he's doing with JetVirtual. And here he is to tell us all about it. So, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So what can you tell us about JetVirtual? What is JetVirtual?
Okay, so JetVirtual, basically what we do is we answer phone calls from many different companies, so overflow calls and just small to medium-sized businesses that either want to sound more professional or they don't want to miss an important phone call that could end up losing them business. And we also offer virtual offices around the world, so people who need a virtual office, they want to have a more prestigious address, gain more trust, they rent out office addresses from us, mailing addresses.
Interesting. I mean, obviously, it's a fantastic business. I know a lot of businesses that uses such services. I've used it myself in the past. So, but the answering service is just in England?
So the answering service is at the moment just in England. So we've got UK customers mainly. 90% of our customer base is UK at the moment.
All right. So we're going to delve into your business in a little bit. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, where you grew up. Obviously, you have a little bit of an accent. You came from England, but I know you lived in Los Angeles. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so I have a very interesting story. I'm not sure really where to begin.
When were you born?
I was born in the UK. That's a good start. I was born in the UK. I ended up basically doing not much for the first 18 years of my life. Messing around in school. I ended up going to yeshiva for 5 years by mistake.
Which yeshiva?
I went to Or Sameach.
Very nice.
In Yerushalayim.
What do you mean by mistake? How do you got tapped on the shoulder at the hotel? Or?
Well, no, it was more. I was working with mentally handicapped children.
Oh, wow.
That was when I was 18 years old. I was tired of going to school. I didn't have the Sitzfleisch to sit and learn anymore, and so I took a job in a home for mentally handicapped children. And one of the people that worked there, they had just come back from a trip in Israel. They went to Aish, and he wasn't religious before he left, and then he came back and suddenly he had sitters hanging out, and he was just filled with joy and simcha, and it was so contagious that I said to him, why are you so happy? I was like an 18-year-old, kind of depressed a bit.
You grew up from? Or?
I grew up I grew up in Stamford Hill.
Wow.
So it's a very Hasidic neighborhood, but I felt very burnt out. I didn't feel any meaning in my life at the time. And this guy, his name was Scott, and anyway, so
is his name Simcha now?
Probably. I actually bumped into him a couple of weeks ago in Ramat Beit Shemesh.
Oh wow, that's
funny. He's actually living here. This is now. I haven't seen him before I met him. I hadn't seen him in about 15 years plus.
Wow. So he inspired you.
He's the one that inspired me to go, and I only met him a couple of weeks ago for the first time.
That's incredible.
And he had no idea what impact he had on me. He had no idea.
You told him, I assume.
I told him. I said, you changed my life. You don't realize it, but just because of the happiness, the joy that you showed, and it was so contagious, I wanted it. And so I asked him why he was so happy, and he said, I found a place called Eish Torah in Yerushalayim, and I found the meaning of life, and I started learning Torah, and I feel amazing, and I just kept asking him, but really, you're happy because you went to yeshiva? I always thought yeshiva was kind of I didn't really want to go. Anyway, so he persuaded me to go there for a month, and so I went for a month, and ended up in Or Sameach by chance, and 1 month turned into 5 years.
Wow.
And that's how I ended up there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So then so you were in Israel for 5 years, learning Or Sameach.
I was in Israel 5 years, Or Sameach. I wanted to go into Kiruv. It was just, it's part of my personality. So we talk about, are you an entrepreneur? What makes an entrepreneur? So for me, I never really worked in my life until I left yeshiva.
Mm-hmm.
I was lazy growing up, but I always was very creative. I always wanted to create, to do. And so when I dated my wife, my wife now, so she's from California, and I dated her in Israel, but she was only here for 2 weeks. So she had to fly back to California.
Wait a second. So when you're in Or Sameach, they set you up with a girl, or you?
I went to a shadchan. So this is after 5 years of studying there,
Right.
learning in yeshiva. I then went to a shadchan.
And the shadchan set you up with someone from Los Angeles
Yeah.
who was only there for 2 weeks.
Okay, so the situation is my wife is probably a better salesperson than I am, and that's very hard to say because I'm a very good salesman. But she is really good. I keep telling her she's got to start her own business because she'll do really well. She does. She has 3 children. That's a business.
And a husband.
Yeah, and 4 children.
Yeah.
So basically, she persuaded the shadchan to she says, I'm not leaving Israel until you set me up with a boy. So the shadchan said, okay, fine. And so we ended up dating for 2 weeks. She had to go back, and I need to make a decision. So I ended up booking a flight and
Los Angeles.
Going to Los Angeles.
Amazing.
And I just,
where do you stay? Like what? You just like
so literally
because you're from England. You grew up in England. You were in
Correct.
Israel for 5 years. Then all of a sudden you book a flight to Los Angeles.
Correct.
It's a different world, my friend.
Absolutely, completely different world. I felt like I was in Disneyland.
Literally,
literally in Disneyland. I mean, I was like, wow, palm trees, blue skies. Like I could do this.
Right.
So I ended up staying at random people's houses until I overstayed my welcome.
Right.
And then I moved on and went to someone else's house. I guess this is interesting because I used sales tactic to get married.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do tell.
So I read a lot of sales books, and one of them is called, it basically uses reverse psychology. So it's a takeaway clause, to basically say, well, look, this product's not going to be available. You only have X amount of time to buy it at this price. Otherwise, boom, either the price is going to go up, or the product's not going to be around anymore because it's going to be taken. So I used that on my wife. Because basically my wife, probably like a lot of women, couldn't make up her mind.
Right.
She was just, and she was at home, and she was in her own, living in her area. So she had all the time in the world. The problem is I'm some guy from London who's supposed to be in yeshiva in Israel, and I'm in California staying at people I don't know.
Right.
So you need an answer.
You need to know what's going on.
So after about 6 weeks of dating,
Wow.
Again, 6 weeks of basically just hanging around.
Right.
And I can't hang around. So I remember it was a Motzei Shabbos, and I called her up. I said, hey, how was your Shabbos? She said, oh, it was amazing. Yeah, I was with some friends. I said to her, listen, Lauren.
About the rest of your life.
I don't think it's going to work out.
Ooh.
Now, by the way, my heart was thumping so hard and so fast at this point because this was like, I really wanted to marry her.
Right.
So this was like not a joke, This is not just, do you want to buy this phone? Because this is my life here,
Right.
But I don't know, something in me that just sort of said I have to do this. So I said to her, I don't think it's going to work out. I'm going to book a flight back to Israel. So she said, what do you mean? Well, what? We're in the middle of dating. Like, I don't understand what's wrong. I thought it was going good. I said, it's going great. But the problem is that, I don't want to get, more hurt. Like, I feel like the more I go out with you, the more, the more hurt I'm going to get if it doesn't work out. And I think it's best for both of us, seeing as you haven't come up with a decision. And I think it's best if I just book a flight back to Israel and we just leave it there.
Wow. Oh
so
my gosh.
That was a moment of silence. And then she's like, no, we're going to go out one more time. Okay. We're going to go out one more time. We're going to see how it goes. Okay. We're not going to think about, getting engaged or anything, but just one more date. I said, okay, fine. One more date.
All right.
So it happened to be that this date was a special date because what I did there,
You didn't book a flight.
I didn't book a flight. No, I didn't. Thank God she didn't call my bluff. I basically ended up...
By the way, she knows the story, right? She's going to listen to this podcast.
She knows the story very well. She tells it over almost every Shabbos table, and I get very sick of it. But Kitzer, we ended up getting engaged after that date. After that date, I guess she took it serious. Like, she realized, okay. And we're now actually next week we're celebrating 9 years.
Beautiful, Mazel Tov. That's fantastic. And what a celebration. I mean, you moved to Israel just a couple of months ago.
Just moved to Israel.
Right. So first of all, you lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years?
Okay, so then what happened was, this is even crazier. So
hold on a second. I just got to tell my audience. We will get to entrepreneurial stuff. Don't worry, but this is fantastic. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just to the audience, I'm telling you right now, you want to listen to the rest of this because there's a crazy story coming up. about how I ran my business from a hotel lobby.
Nice.
So we'll get to that. Basically, what happened was I was invited to someone's house for Shabbos randomly for a Shabbos meal, and it happened to be a Kiruv organization, a rabbi of a Kiruv organization in California. And I'm not going to mention the name, just I don't know if they would want me to, so I'm going to keep that just
okay.
For anonymity purposes. Yeah, there we go. So what happened was I got invited to this rabbi's house, and he had about 20 people that weren't from at the table. They were involved in college campus, Kiruv. I was very interested in doing Kiruv. It was part of what I wanted to do. So when I went there, I sat at the table, and at the end of the meal, so the rabbi asked me what I thought about it, and I started giving him a whole bunch of what I thought, about the whole table. Well, this guy, it seemed like I could see where he's going and this with that. And then this person, and he said to me at the end of about half an hour of us talking, he said to me, "Do you want to come work for me?"
Wow.
So this is my first job offer.
Wow.
So I said to him, wow.
And you wanted to get into Kiruv.
I wanted to get into Kiruv, but hello, I'm just
about to get engaged.
About to get engaged. I'm still in yeshiva. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So he said, "Listen, I'll give you $60,000 salary."
Oh my gosh.
So I kind of almost fell out of my chair because I've never had a job in my life. I don't even have a degree.
Right.
Okay.
And after a half-hour conversation.
And after a half-an-hour conversation, this guy saw that I had something in me that he wanted, and he was willing to give me $60,000 just as starting salary.
Amazing.
It gets more amazing.
Yeah.
I said no.
You said no. But of course.
So the reason why I said no is I really believed I wasn't ready to take the job yet. I was going to get married. I wanted I wanted to live a year, my first year of marriage in Eretz Yisrael. That's just, everyone recommended that, and I didn't want
to miss out on that.
So I said no. He didn't give up, and he basically told me that, "Can I give you a retainer so that after a year you'll come work for me?" And I didn't want to commit, so I said no.
Wait a minute, he was going to pay you for that year that you go to Israel to learn, so that after you're done with that year, you'll come back and work for him.
Correct. He was going to pay me a certain amount, not a lot.
And you said no to that also?
I said no to that because I didn't want to be tied down.
I'm so happy you said yes to this interview.
Yeah. So this is the crazy part. About 9 months.
So you went to Israel then?
I went back to Israel. I got married.
Got married in Los Angeles?
No, I got married in Israel.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then we, what happened was there was a recruit. They sent a recruiter out to Israel to go and recruit. They didn't remember about me, I guess, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. They kind of let me go. The recruiter really liked me. And he said to me, "You got to work for this Kiruv organization." So I said, "Well, yeah, I know they offered me already a job." And he said, "I know, but now I'm offering it again." And I said, "Well, I don't know, He said, "Look, what would it take to get you to come?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, how about $80,000? So I thought, hold on a second, $80,000.
And this is after living like a kollel life for a year in Israel.
Life, yeah, 9 months. And I'm like, And then he meets my wife, and my wife is like a real character. She's amazing. And he's like, "Okay, I'll tell you what, guys. You both come work for us. I'll get you a $100,000 contract today. You could sign it."
Wow.
And I'm like, what? $100,000? They said rabbis don't make money. There's no money in Kiruv.
Right.
Like, that's what everyone's telling me. You want to go into Kiruv? Okay, there's no money in Kiruv. I'm like, okay. And I signed. Oh, I remember when I told my father-in-law and my father about they said, what? What?
You?
You 6-figure salary? Like, you just came out of yeshiva. I'm like, listen, God works in amazing ways. Hashem works in incredible ways. So, next thing I know, I'm flying off to California. They paid for my flights. They paid for all of the, shipping, and I'm living the dream. And wow. I spent a year there. And after a year, we had politics problems with, the
organization.
With the other organization on the campus, headed by a Rabbi Susan.
A Rabbi Susan?
A Rabbi Susan, who wore a pink yarmulke.
Oh, Rabbi Susan wasn't a big fan of you guys?
She wasn't a big fan of us for obvious reasons, and we ended up not getting along, and it didn't work out. So after a year, And also I found that the Kirov world for me, it was too much of a business. And so I kind of just decided, you know what, I'm going to go into business and I'll do Kirov on the side. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going into mortgages, and that was 2008. I probably don't need to say much more than that.
Right.
I got
great timing there.
Absolutely. And I went bust after about 4 months.
Right.
I had my first child, and I had my first notice from my landlord that I needed to get out.
Wow.
So I didn't think she was serious. I said, well, what do you mean? I have a child. She says, you haven't paid the rent in 2 months. And I have no choice. I'm changing the locks.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the part of my life where I realized that you can go from 6 figures to 0 pretty quick. And there was a huge lesson in my life for me. I was completely broke. I had no money. I worked a commission job for 4 months straight in mortgages, and there were no mortgages. It was 2008. I then took about 4 or 5 different sales positions, and nothing was working. I did end up managing to get an interview. I was selling water purification systems,
right,
for a company, and I actually got a meeting with the buyers of Warner Brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually landed that. And my manager decided, oh my goodness, you've got a meeting with the buyers of Warner Brothers? They're like, do you know how many water purification systems they can, I'm coming with you.
Ooh.
He came with me and basically messed up.
He blew the deal.
He blew the deal. Because you see, the thing is that there were 2 ways to sell this machine. It was basically not, those plastic water bottle dispensers.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
they ate in. And...
Yeah, so those are like really bad for you.
Okay.
Apparently.
Why? Because of the plastic?
The plastic's really bad because of the heat, and that can cause things like cancer and stuff like that.
Right.
And also when you're pressing the nozzle, like where you dispense the water out of. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people who haven't washed their hands or they sneezed or whatever, they're touching that area, and you're drinking the water that's coming.
Right.
Yeah. Needless to say, so that was one part of the pitch. The other part of the pitch was actually it was cheaper, because instead of having to replace these plastic bottles, you just plugged this machine into a faucet and it filtered the water. So in the long run, you were saving a lot of money.
Right. You don't have to schlep and storage of the big bottles and stuff.
100%. So there's a lot of... So now, for me, I realized that when you're talking to someone, you got to find out what is this person's reason for wanting this product. Because if you just go in and try and sell the features of the product without knowing what the person's interested in, what moves the person emotionally, what gets the person, what triggers him, then you could be selling the wrong feature and you've lost the deal.
Right.
So with Warner Brothers, I knew that when I spoke to there was the woman buyer, she was very into the green and ecosystem. And so my pitch to her was all about the plastic bottles that are being thrown into the river, into the ocean, and it's polluting our land, polluting our world. And that's what she wanted. That was music to her ears.
Right.
And even if it would have been more expensive, she'd have done anything to replace this,
travesty to the world.
Exactly. So that was my pitch to her, and that's how this guy, the manager, comes in completely blind, doesn't even know, and he's telling her about how, you could save this much money and this much. That wasn't the selling point. That wasn't what she wanted to hear. And the deal ended up going sour. It didn't work out.
Wow, what a lesson.
Yeah. So that's and in the end, I ended up having no choice but to move into my in-laws' house, and that didn't work very well for our marriage.
No, that wasn't fun.
That wasn't fun. So it lasted 3 weeks, 3 whole weeks.
Then you got eviction notice.
I gave my resignation. Yeah. So I called up my father in London, and he owns a grocery store, and I said, listen, it's not working out. So he said, look, come, I'll give you a job in my grocery shop. So we flew to London, and it was terrible because, I went from living on a 6-figure salary in a beautiful sunny California, driving a brand new car, living in a nice Spanish house,
right,
to having to rent a small apartment and basically serve milk and eggs, So it wasn't for me, sitting at a cashier, at a cashier and just serving people eggs, milk, and I was going crazy. So after about a year of doing that, I said to my wife, look, I'm really not happy. And she said, you know what? I'm behind you 100%, whatever. If you want to go off and do something else, So I gave up it was a decent wage, it's because of my father.
Right.
And it was stable.
Right.
But I had to make a decision because I can either stay serving, sitting at a cashier, for my father for the rest of my life and be miserable. Mm-hmm. Or I could follow my passion and see where it takes me. So it was amazing Hashgacha Pratis because I was sitting in my house and in the local Jewish newspaper there was like an advert talking about a new Jewish hub that opened up to help Jewish entrepreneurs start their business.
Beautiful.
It was called Trainee Tradie. It's in London in the UK. So I thought, oh, amazing. Okay, great. I've got loads of ideas. So I went to meet with the guy who was in charge of, interviewing and making sure. Because what they did was they gave you free rent. So you could sit in an office for free. They gave you office space. They gave you mentoring. You could printing material, the works. Mm-hmm. So I went there. I had about 7 different ideas, and he's like, I'm not sure. Actually, one of them, I'm telling you, it would have gone really. Now that I think about it today, it would have done really well. But anyway, he actually gave me this idea. He says, there's this virtual office thing that I always thought of that there's a market for it, and no one, there's not a lot of people doing it. So I said, it sounds like a great idea. And he said, I've told a lot of people this idea and no one's actually done it.
So why don't you just tell our listeners why would a company or a business want a virtual office space or virtual phone number?
Okay, so the idea is that if you're starting out, it doesn't really matter what it is that you're offering. The last thing you want is for people to go on your website and either there's no address, which means there's no trust. Like if I don't know where you're based, how do I know who you are, what you are? And then but if you put your home address, that's like really unprofessional, right. 13 Maple Drive, okay. So the trust factor is huge.
Plus you can look these things up now on Google Maps. You can look up any address and
exactly.
Oh, that's a nice house.
Yeah, exactly. and thirdly, privacy. You don't really want to mix your business with your privacy. You won't put your residential address.
Right.
You might have some crazy client that whatever. So for those reasons, people have a virtual address. So instead of having 13 Maple Drive, apartment B, you get 200 Wall Street.
Right.
So we actually offer an address in Wall Street. We offer an address in Mayfair, Canary Wharf. Canary Wharf is a financial district. So if you're in finance,
I think I know the builder of Canary Wharf.
Yeah, the Reichels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually have an office. So we have an address there. We have addresses in Piccadilly Circus, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of. And so for trust factor, it gives you that automatic,
like a higher perceived value.
Yeah, higher perceived value, exactly. And then in terms of the telephone number, again, you don't want to be putting your mobile phone,
right?
Because you want to look big, you want to look established, you want to build trust. And again, you don't want people having necessarily your mobile phone number. So we give out a virtual number. And again, another thing is that someone's calling you up for the first time, and you pick up the phone. It kind of just. You kind of look like this is a one-man band.
Right. The owner's picking up the phone, or the CEO. Right.
Exactly. So what we do is we have receptionists who answer the calls in the company name. So it's hello, ABC, how can I help you? And it sounds very professional. And then she could actually either take a message or she can transfer the call to you. So, you're looking for Mr. Cohen? Hold on one second. Let me just see if he's available. And of course the client thinks that you're in the office and the receptionist is just patching the call through to your office.
Right.
So, of course, she transfers the call and you pick it up on your mobile, which is also great because if you're out on meetings, she can transfer the call to your mobile and you could pick up the phone while you're driving or wherever it is.
It could go to voicemail also. So.
Well, no. So then instead of going to voicemail, what we do is let's say Mr. Cohen's not available. Let's say Mr. Cohen's actually meeting a client. So rather than just saying, telling it to voicemail, which we've done a survey, 80% of people hang up the phone when they hear voicemail.
Really?
Yeah. We live in a very impatient generation.
That's so funny. I would never have thought that.
Listen, we eat, pot noodle soups, and we like things heated up in a microwave in 2 minutes.
Right.
And, if I send a WhatsApp message and it doesn't reach you in, 1.2 seconds, I'm frustrated.
Right.
If I'm trying to go on a website and it takes more than 2 seconds to load,
you're out of there.
I'm out of there. So it's the same thing when we're dialing a number. And imagine, let's say you want to call a plumber, right? Now with Google, you've got 10 plumbers' numbers in front of you in one page.
Right.
So if I call up the first number on the page in Google and it goes to voicemail, why should I leave a message and wait for him to call me back? I want a plumber now.
Right.
So what do? I hang up the phone and I call the next plumber on the list.
Right.
So people don't realize it, but they're losing business because they don't know that the person's called them. They might have a missed call, but that's it. A person could call, and how many times have you called up a person who called you inquiring about a service, and you call them up later in the day and they go, "Oh, sorry, I've already gone with so-and-so." And you're just like, right? Because that one phone call now cost you, how much is the value of the lifetime value of a client?
Sure.
Sometimes it's thousands, sometimes it's tens of thousands.
Sure, because it's not just the services that, it's telling their friends about your service and
exactly.
What you offer.
So the lifetime value of a client could be huge, and in literally one phone call.
Right, and to give that up for trying to save $5 or whatever it is.
Right, exactly. Well, so it could be less than $5. I mean, we charge, at the moment, we're charging somewhere around £1.50 a call. Mm-hmm. So you can call it around $1 for $2, whatever it is. So if you imagine, for the sake of a $2 phone call,
right,
what the cost could be, it's astronomical.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay. So getting back to so thank you for that explanation, because a lot of people may not be aware of the importance. So it something that is definitely every entrepreneur should be aware about, and having a high perceived value and having these professional addresses and phone numbers. Okay. So let's so you leave your wife says, "I back you 100%." Uh-huh. You go to this place in London that helps. It was a Frum place.
It was like a Frum incubator for startups.
Right. And he says, "I have this idea for a call center," and you said.
And he said there was this idea, and I said, great, and I went with it. Now, the thing is that I had no idea how to start a business. No idea. I mean, I was in Kirov, I was in yeshiva. I didn't know what I had no idea.
Right.
But I knew that I wanted to have my own business. I knew that after working for other people, I couldn't work for people anymore. Like, I needed to make up my own hours. I needed to do what I wanted to do. I needed to have my creativity. One of the things that I learned working for my father was that I couldn't be the boss, and if I had like a great idea, it wasn't necessarily executed because I'm not in charge.
Right. And
so therefore my creativity was stifled, and I felt trapped. And so when I started my business, I had this freedom. I can do whatever I want. I can create anything, and I have a natural, knack for selling. So put the two and two together. So what happened is at the beginning, I decided, you know what? I'm going to need some money to start this thing. I'm going to need a website. I'm going to need to do marketing. I'm going to need a brochure. I need a whole lot of stuff.
We need people picking up the phones.
Well, that was me. I was the receptionist.
You were the receptionist.
I was the first receptionist. Yeah. Now, here's the crazy thing. With my very limited knowledge, I turned around to this guy and I said to him, do you know what? I want to start this business, but I want an investor. So the people who founded this organization, they were quite wealthy people. And I said, how about we do a 50-50 split and you invest in the business? He said, look, I'll ask them and see what they say. They came back saying, put a business plan together. I didn't know what a business plan was. So I just put together like an Excel spreadsheet thinking, if I get this many clients and I charge this much money, this is how much money we'll make.
That's what you sent them?
That's it.
Yeah.
They said, okay, it sounds good. We'll put in £5,000.
How much did you think you needed?
I had no idea. But to me, £5,000 is £5,000 more than I have.
Right.
So I gave them my 50% of my business for £5,000.
Wow.
Yeah. With no buyout clause.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah. Meaning I didn't stipulate about it. I didn't know what buyout clause.
You didn't know what it was.
Well, I was like,
who was it? And who was the ultimate decision maker?
Me.
No, I'm saying you could have, if it's 50-50, were you able?
It's 50-50, but like, at the end of the day, if they own 50% of my company, it's not so posh to just
do whatever you want.
Say, hi, I want it back. No, in terms of decisions, they let me make decisions, but I had to report to them every month.
Right.
I thought they were going to put also their expertise in. Nothing. They were basically silent partners.
Oh, I've been through that before.
I learned a big lesson. I learned a very big lesson. Investors, it's
it's so true. You know, you get these investors, and they may have a lot of money, and they. I was on an investment, one of my companies. I don't want to say which one, but we had investors that sold us the world that, you know, we're so connected and we'll help you do this. They didn't help us with anything. Right. They didn't lift a finger. They just and we had also given up a large part of our company for their, you know, because, hey, these guys are connected and they have all these things and they're telling us to do this and that. They didn't do anything. It was such a failure. It was such a, whatever. I don't want to.
And not only that, but it's the pressure as well. So not only did they do nothing, I'm working my socks off, and every month they want like this, you know, spreadsheet, and they want to know what's going on, and like there's all this pressure, and then what do you know?
And they knew that you don't have that experience. I mean,
exactly.
You don't. You know, there's so many aspects of running your own company, and there's so many, you know, besides the financials and the billing and the collecting and the marketing and the sale. Like, you were great at marketing and sales, but you know, there's a lot more to running a business than that. And I guess that they wanted to see those normal, I guess, what investors want to see, you know, every month. Wow.
So the thing is, what I learned out of that is that sometimes the word investor is very shiny and very like, wow, I got an investor. Ooh.
Yeah.
And there's another thing I learned as well, just because I want to speak to the audience here with anyone who's starting a business. You know, the amount of time that I spent thinking up a name for the company, it's like, for crying out loud. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter what the name of the company is called. Right. You know, you could spend literally months just coming up with, I got to come up with the right name. Right. Because Kleenex means something, right? Right. Kleenex, like Coca-Cola. Does that mean anything to anyone? I mean, all it is just a name.
Right.
It's what
Google, eBay.
There's nothing, it doesn't mean anything. Right. It's just a name. But for some reason, like, I think, I've got to come up with this cool name. It's got to be the best name. And then the logo. Oh my goodness me. The amount of time I spent. Should it be this color? Should it be that? How many people, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, look at, oh my goodness, it's a green logo? I'm not going for that service. No way. You know, forget the price. Price is not a problem. The service, I don't really care about. But the green logo, I'm sorry. It's just, you know, brochures. Do you know how many clients I got from a brochure?
2?
0. 0. Do you know how much time and money I spent
on
the
brochure?
Best brochure there could be in there, and it's still sitting. I've got, I don't know how many brochures still sitting from 6 years ago. Wow. I started this business 6 years ago. Business cards. I mean, there's so many things. Listen, we need to communicate. We need to have ways to communicate with clients. But the amount of time sometimes I see myself and other people spend on starting out a business. You know how long it takes to start out a business?
Sure.
Yeah. A day. A day.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
You have the idea, get the domain name.
Get the domain name. It's
boom.
Done.
Yeah.
But people spend months.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just to get the first client. You haven't even got your first client. You spent $10,000 and 6 months. How do you even know the concept works?
Right.
You know? So that's another lesson that I learned along the way. Now, so a lot of siyata ishmaya, because what happened is my company started to grow. I basically pounded the phones. I just pounded the phones. I literally
calling companies,
calling people. I remember I offer a free trial. So another lesson I learned along the way was that this estate agent, letting agent, what do you call them? Realtors?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this realtor said, yeah, I'll take a free trial. So I thought, great, this is my first client, you know, amazing. I answered about 1,000 calls to this guy. And at the end, I'm like, great. So now you're signing up? He's like, no, I don't need it. I'm like, what? But I answered 1,000 calls. And every week I would say, so you ready to, I just need a bit longer. I just need a bit longer. And in the end, he didn't even sign up. So I made no money on that. So it's important to know who your clients are, you know, to get the right clients. No point having a client who's basically going to, you know, dray your cop forever and then you don't make any money off them.
You are allowed to fire your clients.
Exactly. I fired a few clients of mine.
Excellent.
Trust me. I actually once called up someone who was taking up so much of my time.
Right.
It just wasn't worth. I worked out. I basically, charge him £1 an hour, you know, because that's how much time he was taking. That my value is not £1 an hour, you know.
Right.
So I said to him, hey, by the way, I have this great company that I highly recommend you use. Here they are. You know. So what happened was a lot of things happened along the way. Something happened where basically I had a business mentor. And the business mentor really liked what I was doing, and he liked the way that my company was growing. And so he came to me and he said to me, you know, oh no, before that, I got to tell you something else before that. And that's a big lesson to learn as well. One of the things that I learned in sales is never give up. never, ever, ever give up the sale until the person tells you, jump in a lake. But that was until the person told me.
I mean, if he says no, that's not good enough. It's got to be...
No. Even if they say, no, I'm not interested. So they go into an automated email and you know, and so they get an email like once a week or whatever. But I don't call them anymore. Like, that's done.
Right.
But whenever someone says to me, yeah, I'm still thinking about it, or, oh, you know, I haven't made up my mind yet. Like anything vague or anything that's not a no, I do not want your services. To me, that's still a yes. Call me tomorrow at the same time. And that's exactly what I did. I would call people every single day until either they said yes or they said no. If you say maybe, or if you say, I'll let you know, or I'm thinking about it, no, that's not.
You'll call them back.
I'm calling you back. You know, and I had them in my CRM system. Zoho, by the way, if anyone wants to know.
Zoho?
Great CRM system. It's free. I have about 2,500 contacts in Zoho, and it's completely free.
I'll link to it on the show notes.
It's a very cool tool. And anyway, so what happened was, this is really funny. So I had one guy who inquired about the service. His name was Gary, and I called him up every day for about 2 weeks because he kept going, I'll fill out the forms. I'll fill out the forms. Yeah. And I hounded this every day. I call him. One day I call him up and he says to me, Daniel, okay, let me give you a piece of advice, Daniel. Okay. There's a difference between being tenacious and, being, and just,
annoying
and you don't have to call me every single day. And he gave me a lecture for about 15 minutes about you can't, you sound desperate and it's not professional and blah blah blah. And okay, I just stayed quiet. I listened. I heard what he had to say. I don't know who this guy is.
Right.
I have no idea. At the end of the 15-minute conversation, he says, okay, I'm sending the forms to you now. so in the end, right now, you think that's funny. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Not only does he become a client of mine after this whole lecture, he calls me an hour later. I kid you not. He calls me an hour later and he says, Daniel? I said, yeah. I've been thinking about something. I'm a venture capitalist and I really like your style. You're very, what's the word?
Tenacious?
Tenacious, resilient, like,
resilient.
When you do something over and over again, like,
right.
Determined, you've got a lot of drive and passion. And, I invest in people. And I don't know much about your company. I know I'm a client. I don't know, but I'd like to meet up with you and potentially invest in your business, in you.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is insane. Now,
so first he gives you a lecture.
Right? What a payoff. Right?
Don't tell me how to do my business.
Now, this is the crazy thing. I meet with him.
How'd you find him? It was just a cold call?
It was either a cold call or he had found my website online and filled out an inquiry form.
Okay.
Just to be it for a callback, and I called him back. He met up with me and he told me, okay, so basically this is who I am. I didn't know who he was. He said, I just sold a couple of months ago. I sold out my recruitment agency for £300 million.
300 million pounds.
300 million pounds.
And this is a guy you called up every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was.
Right.
And this is a guy, I literally called him up on his mobile phone, on his cell phone. So, now I'm sitting here, this little schnip just started my
Just
business.
out of the grocery store.
Just out of the grocery store, wet behind the ears, I had no idea. And here's this guy, huge guy, 300 million pounds, just sold his business, and he wants to invest in me. So I said to him, okay, what do you want to offer him? He didn't give me a figure, but he said that I only invest if I can own 70% of the business. Yeah. Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
I want to point out, because I've heard stories like this before, and I know of them where you have these guys that do very well, they make a lot of money, and then they only want to invest, in things that they take 50%, 60%, 70% of the company, and they don't understand. The seasoned VCs, they understand, but a lot of these angel investors that just have a lot of money, they don't understand that when you take that much of a company away from an entrepreneur, you're taking away their drive and passion. You're taking away what makes them get up in the morning, go through the hardships, and put in the 12-hour days. So I can see where this story is headed. But what happened?
I said no. I think at that point I had enough traction in the business and I felt like I was going. Plus, of course, I had these other investors that still owned 50% of my company. So that was a whole question of how to deal with that. Right. So I just said no. So then what happened was
So you didn't even know if he was offering £10,000 or 200,000 pounds.
I had no idea. My guess was it wasn't going to be a large amount because I was just starting out. So it couldn't have been a large amount. But what was amazing was I actually called up my business advisor. I had a business advisor at the time. And I asked him, I said, this guy's offering me 70%. He wants 70% of the business. And he said to me, no, don't do it. Don't do it. He puts down the phone. My business advisor puts down the phone. And a couple of hours later, he calls me up and says, Daniel, I've been thinking about it. I want to invest in your business.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the Siyata Dishmaya just really comes into play here. This is insane, but go ahead. First of all, also, I just want to point out, because it's also very important for entrepreneurs, and we're learning an incredible amount of lessons from this story so far. You've been dropping a lot of incredible knowledge bombs here for us. And, but having a mentor and knowing that you need an advisor and having someone that has more experience than you and going to them and asking them questions and listening to them and not just shooting from the gut unless, when you have that lack of experience. I think that's another incredible lesson that every entrepreneur and everyone getting started with their business should learn. Find a mentor, find someone that has that knowledge and experience, and go to them and ask them the questions.
100%.
And who knows, maybe they'll invest in you also.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is I said to him, okay, what are you willing to do? He said, look, I'm not going to take 70%. I'm going to take 50%. I think it's fair. We do 50-50. Okay. I said, well, how much money are you going to put in? He said, I'll give you 40,000
pounds,
40,000 pounds. Now, bear in mind that only like a couple of months ago,
you got 5,000 pounds.
I got 5,000 pounds, 50%.
Right.
So now it's gone up to 40,000 pounds. So I was very excited because not only was he going to put in 40,000 pounds, but he was also going to really be active. Mm-hmm. And that was for me, that was big. So I said yes.
So you said yes without discussing with the other owners?
No, I said yes, contingent on condition that he would be able to sort out the situation. In other words,
the previous investors.
He would have to talk to them and see what they were willing to do. And obviously, we'd have to figure something out.
Right.
So I said yes on condition to that. So he then spoke to my partners with me. We spoke together, and basically they weren't that excited about being bought out at this stage because they kind of, they wanted to stay 50% partners, but they basically said, look, double the money and we'll give you our shares.
Meaning for 10,000 pounds, they'll give you 50%.
They'll give us back the 50%.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was amazing because.
And I think that's fair also.
It was fair. And honestly, I mean, they're probably kicking themselves today, but, I think it was fair at the time, and, they didn't have to do that.
Right. They could have been.
They could have held, but they were from, and they were, again, remember that they had started this hub to help people.
Right. So they were in the business of helping people and helping entrepreneurs. I love guys like that. That's what I'm talking about. That's what makes this world goes around. That's what Cholesterol needs more of. These type of entrepreneurs, these type of investors that look out for their, for the people they invest in and help them and really look out for their best interest. Like a lot of these successful people, they've made their money and they have that feeling, hey, I want to give back. I want to do more. I want to help the next generation from entrepreneurs. And so I love that story. That's fantastic.
Right.
So they let you go. So you took the 40, 10 went to them.
Yeah.
And now you're 50-50 again?
Now I'm 50-50 again. Okay.
Amazing. With 30,000 extra pounds.
With 30,000 extra pounds and a guy who's going to hopefully,
actually do some work for the company.
Fast forward about 3 months.
I thought you were going to say like 3 years, but yeah.
About 3 months. And things are moving along. The business is growing. I did a lot of SEO, so search engine optimization. I was reaching the top of Google. We were getting clients every day.
Wow.
It was going great. I hired 3 receptionists. So now I was full operation, and I actually hired a main receptionist who was absolutely phenomenal. She was amazing. She basically ran my business. She knew every single client. She was invoicing the clients. She was doing everything. I mean, at the beginning, I was doing everything myself.
Right.
So the fact that I now had someone who was doing a lot of the work for me, it was amazing. So I can develop the business. This is where stuff started to go upside down. One day, out of the blue, my head receptionist, calls me up and says, Daniel, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I can't work anymore.
Huh.
So I'm like, what? What do you mean? She says, I'm suicidal.
Oh my gosh.
I said, what? What do you mean? Like, are you okay? Like, yeah, my boyfriend broke up with me and I'd just been really
obviously
depressed.
Not a Jewish girl.
She wasn't Jewish, and she sounded very depressed, and I went to a psychiatrist and he told me I'm not allowed to work for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
I'm now, I don't know what's going to be, like my business, like I gave her everything. She had everything. A huge lesson I learned from this is never give away your whole business. Don't rely on one person. Don't let your business be dependent on one employee, because people are,
things happen
unpredictable.
In life. Right.
That things can happen, and I literally went into panic mode. I didn't know how to run the business because
right. And you can't get upset at her.
Well, look,
she's suicidal.
She's suicidal. What can I do?
Right.
And then another receptionist called me up, and she said she was not feeling well and she couldn't come in that day. So I ended up that day having to answer the calls, and I was it was crazy. My business was really struggling. The worst part about it was that everything was happening all in one go. My investor, the guy who was my business advisor, calls me up, and I told him what happened, whatever it was. I don't want to go too much into detail.
Okay.
But he also had a partner. In other words, he had a partner in all of his ventures that he was doing.
Right.
So his partner was also part of this business. And for whatever reason it was, his partner decided that he didn't want to be in the business he didn't want to be in part of this business. He was worried about whatever. I don't know whatever it was. He basically said to me, Daniel, I'm sorry, but we have to pull out.
What does that mean?
It means that we want to give you back the shares, and we're going to write it off. We're just,
Wait, that's not a bad thing.
It's not.
I'm like, wait, we decided we're going to give you 50% of your company back to you because we just don't want to do this anymore?
It's not so much they didn't want to do it anymore, but they had, I don't know, they had a bit of a disagreement. Him and his partner. His partner wasn't 100% for the whole thing to begin with, and they got into a bit of an argument. Whatever it was, they ended up basically giving me back the 50% of the business.
For nothing.
For nothing. They wrote it off. Now, the thing is that now I look back and I think that was the best thing ever.
Oh my gosh!
But at the time, I didn't, because I needed them. I was really struggling. I'll never forget this. I had a different business mentor at the time, a guy called Gavin Yuko, a very special person. I was in my apartment. My business was crashing. It was basically falling out of the sky. I was completely, I didn't know what to do.
Not because of a lack of clients, but because of a lack of being able to handle it.
It was the fact that I couldn't handle what was going on.
Right.
I couldn't handle the phone calls. Hiring good staff it's so difficult. I once put out an ad in the local, whatever it was, and I had literally 300 applicants in one day.
Wow.
And I literally started filtering just by name, just okay, do they sound English? do they sound English? And then when I would interview them, I wanted to smash my head into a wall, because it's all I want you to do is answer the phone in a professional way.
Right.
I didn't want them answer the phone hi. My goodness. Okay, fine. Next. Come on, I hated it. I hated hiring. I hated firing. And I hated managing staff. And here I was in a situation where my best staff were not reliable anymore. They couldn't come in, and I couldn't hire fast enough good people. And I was going to lose my clients. That's what was going to happen. I'm sitting on my bed. This is what do they call a moment where a life-changing moment. And I said, I don't care. I'm giving this up. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore.
You're telling us to Gavin.
I give up. I picked up the phone. I called up Gavin. I said, Gavin, I'm done. I can't. My business is going to and I'll never forget this. Gavin says to me, get up, go and do what you've got to do. Do not give up on this business. You got to go and you got to fix this. You can do it. Don't give up. And I said, but I don't. He's like, I don't care what you do. You're a creative guy. You have it in you. You know what you need to do to get things sorted out. Just go and do whatever it takes. Get it sorted out. I got off the phone. I felt okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And an idea came to my head that changed my whole business completely. It was a crazy, crazy idea. I thought it was absolutely crazy. I thought there's no way this is going to work, but this is the only option I have. I'm going to call up one of my competitors, and I'm going to outsource my business to them.
Wow.
So,
it's a great idea.
It's a crazy idea. So I ended up calling a bunch of my competitors, and I said, hi guys, basically this is what's happening. I have a business doing telephone answering, which is what you do. I'm having trouble with staff problems and this and that, the other, whatever it is. I want to outsource it. What's the best price you can give me per call? I own the client, but I'm going to pay you every month to take the calls for me, as if I'm paying a receptionist, but I'm paying you. You've already got a receptionist.
Right.
So I basically priced it up. I ended up going with the person I trusted the most. It wasn't about the price. I had someone who gave me even a better price, but there was one guy who, when I met him, I said, I could trust this guy with my bank account. And that's the guy I want to go into business with. That was 3.5 years ago. We still work together. He's still handles all of my calls, all of
Wow.
my clients' calls. My business became completely virtual, literally. I fired all my staff. I got rid of my office. I went to a hotel that day. I transferred all the lines to this person's office.
Right.
We obviously worked out a way how it would work. We, technical stuff.
Right.
It took about a month or whatever it was, but it worked out. I ended up working out of a hotel lobby for a year.
Wow. Just on your laptop?
Just on my laptop and my phone. So all I did was basically I did marketing, and I was in charge of just basically signing up new deals. So I went from managing staff, hiring staff, firing staff, dealing with issues, blah, 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 technical difficulties with phones, dealing with all those things, to doing absolutely nothing other than completely focusing on building my business.
Who's doing the billing?
So the billing is a whole different issue. The billing, I used to do the billing, and I dreaded it. Every time it came to the first of the month, my stomach would go into knots. I was so nervous.
Why?
Two things. First of all, it took 2 days to do billing, because I got to about 300 clients.
Right.
And to send 300 clients individual invoices takes a long time. You got to go in, you got to see how many phone calls they got. Then you got to create an invoice.
It wasn't an automated system?
So it wasn't automated at all at the time. And I hated it because also credit cards decline. And then you got to chase up the person.
Right.
And then you get emotionally involved. And then you end up spending weeks, if not months, chasing a guy for an invoice for £100.
Right.
And I came to the realization, hold on a second. I'm spending so much time chasing up £100, £200 invoices. It's not worth my time.
Right.
But I was so emotionally involved. I was so emotionally affected. I need to get this money off this guy. How dare this person use my services and not pay me?
Right.
So I had to emotionally detach myself. That was the solution.
Interesting.
And every minute that I was sending out invoices and chasing up payments was time I could be building my business and getting new clients.
Right.
So I ended up going out and outsourcing that too.
There you go.
So today, if we fast forward now, I'm now 6 years running the business. I take 5-week vacations. I go to California. I can go out 5 weeks at a time if I want to. My business runs itself. It's completely automated. There's absolutely nothing I need to do on a day-to-day business for the business to run smoothly. It runs completely smoothly on its own.
Wow.
The only thing that I'm involved in is still I'm the one that takes new inquiries, because I just don't trust anyone with that yet. And that's it. And developing the business, finding new ways to get new clients. And there's a book that I read that I'm sure most of you have heard of, called The E-Myth.
Sure.
By Michael Gerber.
Right.
And it's all about working on your business and not in your business. And that's exactly what happened. I went from working in my business, having absolutely no time to grow it and to expand it, to then outsourcing absolutely everything. And now I work completely on it. And in fact, now I'm looking at getting involved in other ventures. So I'm able to now have the time to be able to do that. If it wasn't for the fact that my business is completely virtual, I wouldn't have been able to make Aliyah. So now I'm able to live in Eretz Yisrael. I'm able to spend time with my family, my children. I go and play tennis in the evenings. I can learn in the mornings. And I spend a couple of hours, working on the business at the moment. And I'm eternally grateful to Hashem for giving me this gift. It's amazing.
Wow. This has been, I'm blown away. This has been an absolute incredible story, very inspirational, so many lessons, so many things to learn from it. I'm not going to go through any other questions, because I think, you just gave us so much, just what we heard already. I'm inspired. It's an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Thank you for joining me on the show. And, I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the From Entrepreneur Podcast with Nahum Kligman. We hope you learned something valuable, and we'll share this with your friends. For show notes, archives of previous episodes, and more information to help you start and grow your business, please visit our website, www.FromEntrepreneur.com. Listen, learn, be Matzliach.